When I was 18, I got kicked out of my house, and one of the things that I did to pay for my phone bill was donating plasma so that I could pay for my phone bill and then be able to apply to jobs so that I had a phone number to put down.
Meet Zoe Kahn, founder, CEO, and an e-com customer experience expert.
A lot of my job is revolved around customer support, and it's not very glamorous, but I realized wow, it's saving companies so much money, and you're able to retain your customers if you fix everything.
She spent the last 2 years building out and scaling up her agency and helping brands scale without headaches.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'm like, oh wow, I have was 100 offshore employees now.
Join us as we explore how she got here.
Yeah, I never thought that I could ever have an agency. I never aspired to. Yeah, it's definitely a happy accident.
How she's been transforming brands' online customer experience.
So did anyone tell anyone about this broken link in the email that gets complaints every single day? Every single constraint or challenge for the customer is a detriment to your business.
And how she keeps up with a rapidly changing e-commerce landscape.
And so I just spent a couple hours training an AI bot. The AI bot was able to actually be equivalent to 7 humans. And I was able to train it in just a couple hours.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the videos, why not consider subscribing? We drop bi-weekly content that will help you improve your business right here on the channel. Hey Zoe, so thank you for joining me. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Can we kick off? Because I know when we kind of spoke before, you talked a little bit about your kind of backstory, and there's, a few interesting parts in there. I know you were kind of, homeless almost when you were younger, right? And there was a kind of crazy story to get to where you are today. Can you just talk me through that at a super high level?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have just started sharing this part of my story because there's a couple parts about it. I think sometimes I just black it out of my memory because it's not important, and then also never wanted anyone to I don't know, pity me or feel bad or anything. But now that I've had more success, I look back and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I should share that, or even just allow myself to just be proud of myself. But yeah, when I was 18, I got kicked out of my house, and thankfully I was able to live at a friend's house for a little bit. But I had to drop out of school as well, and what I was doing I didn't have a phone. I was just trying to figure out how to get to the next steps. And one of the things that I did to pay for my phone bill was donating plasma. And I think I was able to get $40 every time I was able to go, and maybe I could go every 48 hours. I did that so that I could pay for my phone bill and then be able to apply to jobs so that I had a phone number to put down. Yeah, that's kind of the first step that I took to just get myself back on track. It was really, really challenging. It was in the south side of Chicago, so it wasn't the best area to be, all on my own or anything. But yeah, it definitely shaped me. And yeah, now looking back and knowing that I have the customer experience agency and a large team, it's really cool to see that how far I've come. And I could have definitely been stuck there, but I made a decision not to. And even though it was tough, I got out of it.
You mentioned that it shaped you. Are there any specific kind of lessons that you use today?
Well, yeah, I think honestly, a lot of it is I'm really glad that I went through that because my mind I'm just very open-minded and understanding of anybody's journey, because I was there one day and everyone's going through their own stuff, and being a human is hard. Going through the mind is incredible, but also so challenging. And I think that a lot of people fight through, demons and things that they don't you don't really know about, and they're silent. And I think that no matter where someone is in life, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes or through their mental struggles and stuff. And I think that's one of the biggest things of I always want to give people a chance, because people gave me a chance, and I wouldn't have been where I am without that. So I think that's one of the biggest things is just having an open mind and understanding that like it's bigger than what you see right in front of you, and just being very like caring and understanding that, yeah, you never know what's going on in someone's life.
So it's almost like understanding of the human condition and experiences. Would you
Yep.
say there were
Yep.
maybe lessons that you use in business today that you learned from then, or was that kind of developed over time?
So one of my biggest like accomplishments is going back to like the giving people a chance thing. Like one of my very first agency employees was, I actually hired her when she was, I think she was 18, and I needed someone. I had a client who wanted help just in the inbox, but onshore. She was going through, I think she was maybe struggling to get through college and just needed a job, and was working at a restaurant, but like not really enjoying it. And I remember like when I was at that age and I needed, I would die to like work remotely and have, even just for $10 an hour. Cause my first job after like going through all of that, I was making $7.25 at a frozen yogurt shop. And, or it wasn't my first job, but that was one of my like lowest paying jobs. It was like minimum wage in the US. And so I gave her a chance, even though she didn't have any experience and she was very young, like very young. And um, I kind of like saw myself in her because she was feeling a little, like, seemed to be feeling a little lost. And now she's 20. She's been working for the agency for a little over 22 years, and she's like one of my best employees. She's like amazing. And I think that's like one of the things, and I've given people chances and it hasn't worked out, but I always feel like it's, if someone has drive and they're a hard worker, they can learn how to do anything. So that I think it allows me to hire people based on like passion rather than like their credentials, because I've hired people who have like the best credentials ever and very expensive, and then they are way worse workers than Molly that I hired at 18 years old. And so yeah, I think that's a huge thing, is just being able to give people chances based on like their passion.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned there that obviously now you run, an agency in the CX space. Can you just bridge the gap from a few years back, donating plasma to getting where you are today? And how did you end up in ecom as
Yeah,
well?
lots and lots of steps to get there. Ultimately, I was very into the fitness and health world, and I had a bunch of little jobs. I worked at Planet Fitness and Culver's at the same time, and then worked at the frozen yogurt shop. And then I started to compete in bodybuilding because I was just like going to the gym, working really hard, and wanted to like challenge myself. And getting into that world, I learned about supplements and how to count macros and all the nutrition things. And I was trying my best to get back to school to go to study dietetics. So along that way, I tried really hard to shape even just like my part-time jobs in like the nutrition space. And I ended up getting a job at GNC, and it's a supplement store here in the US. And I ended up working at 5 different GNCs and working my way up into management. And I was really, really, I felt really blessed for like those experiences and the locations that I was able to work at, because I worked at a very, very busy, like prestigious GNC just by chance, and learned so much about everything. That's like where I learned how to like work with KPIs and work towards goals that, you going from like being on the floor and like knowing what the business goals are, and just trying to still be a good human, but also a good salesperson, and lots of things about supplements. And that actually gave me a lot of opportunity too, because I was meeting lots of different people who are brand side, because the supplement companies would come into our stores and teach us about their products. And so that we were knowledgeable and able to sell them and answer questions about them. And that led, eventually, I met the owners of Ghost, the energy supplement company. Dan, he actually came into our manager meetings at GNC. And when he heard I was leaving GNC, they offered me a part-time customer support job. And I almost said no, because Ghost has always been kind of like the cool supplement brand, but it was very young. It was under 2 years old. I believe I was employee number 8 when I accepted the role, but I almost said no because I was going from like managing GNCs to part-time customer support while I was in school, and it felt like a step back.
What
But
what made you say yes then? Why did you take that?
Well, I figured so I was leaving GNC so that I could focus solely on school because I finally got enough uh, credit built where I could take out loans and like focus on school rather than work and go to school and pay out of pocket and all this stuff. So I really wanted to just like finally finish school, but I figured that since it was part time and just like a different type of like being brand side, I always wondered. And actually, at the time, I even working at GNC, I really wanted to. It was like a goal of mine to start a supplement company. So I had seen the sales side, but I hadn't seen the behind the scenes side. So I figured it was, even though it's just customer support, and that's how I felt at the time. I could learn a lot about being behind the scenes of a brand. And it's funny because it actually made me decide I don't know if I want to do that. So it was good that I took that because supplements are hard for like, I mean, any business is hard, but it's very challenging to like stay ahead and make sure you're compliant and like all these things. But yeah, I said yes just because I was like, well, if I don't like it, then I don't need to stay there and I can be pretty flexible with school and everything.
Okay, and then what happened next, and how did we end up at Inevitable?
So, yeah, and then I was obsessed with like that's where I ended up learning ecom. I loved it so much, way more than I thought I would, and it was really fun to be in the inbox talking to the customers and fixing all of the like little, not necessarily like issues, but normal things about business where this website is or this link is broken here and my loyalty account isn't whatever, and I received my package late and I received it and it was hard because the package broke, and this all of the different things. It was like, wow, every single time a customer reaches out, there's like a way to problem solve. And I really, really wanted to make sure that any issue that came into the inbox wasn't just like responded to, but we did everything that we could to prevent it from happening in the future. And then also just be proactive and look at the business from before things launch or before things happen and learn from like different mistakes or just being a consumer yourself of like what you want. And so I learned like ecom from customer support and so much marketing, so much logistics, operations, and even finance. Like I feel like I just could run a business from just learning customer support and being curious about all of the different places or the different things about ecom. And so, yeah, I learned all about ecom from customer support. And then I ended up moving on, took a little hiatus, which is kind of random, but played video games on Twitch for 6 to 8 months full time, which it was because Ghost had a gaming product. And then I went on, it was all this, yeah, crazy little hiatus. And then I got back into ecom with the company called Chomps, Better For You Meat Sticks, and learned retention, more in depth retention with like the email, SMS, subscription loyalty side, as far as like owning that rather than just fixing the problems from it. And then I started consulting because I won an award called CX Operator of the Year in 2022, and that gave me like a little bit of attention, like Twitter, which I didn't know was a thing, and at the time, because I'm like, oh, people are still on Twitter, that's crazy. And then yeah, LinkedIn, I realized, oh wow, people are building like personal brands or sharing things. And after that, people started asking me to consult, which again, I was like, I don't even know what that means, but I'll hop on a call with you and like help you. Like if you have questions, I don't mind. If I have time, I might as well see what you need help with. I had pretty severe imposter syndrome because I just had my head down and I was just trying to do the best that I could do at my job. I was always looking for mentors and just figuring out how I could do better at my job. I just really, really wanted to do well and be the best that I could be. So it was really crazy to me that people were asking me for support because I thought like, I don't know, I was still looking for help and I still am. I think that's like the best way to grow and learn and everything. But it really helped with like furthering or like getting rid of some of my imposter syndrome because I was talking to all these founders who they needed so much help and I had the answers. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. If like founders need help and I'm like, I was still in kind of the mindset of like a lot of my job is like revolved around customer support, and it's not very glamorous usually. But I realized like, wow, it's saving companies so much money, and you're able to retain your customers if you fix everything, and people don't know how to fix it. It's really overwhelming. I was getting on all these calls, and the founders are stressed. They're like scared, and they're worried about their businesses. They're losing their customers, and I every time I got off a call, I was like, wow, that was like such a therapy session for them. They just vent. They tell you about all their problems, and then you tell them it's okay, and you let them know like all companies go through this stuff, and it's like you just have to take each problem one by one and fix it. And now the inevitable are one of my like slogans is like, let us reduce your stress, by let us take it all because you don't need to worry about it. And it doesn't need to be stressful or as stressful, or you don't have to worry about it. That's Eventually people started sending me money for my time, because I had no idea how much to charge. I probably would have been like, yeah, you could, I don't know, $20 an hour. I don't know. So that kind of helped me like get my rates straight, because I was like, wow, this is how much someone thinks my time is worth, as like a donation almost. And so eventually it got to so many, nothing crazy, but definitely at a point where I just couldn't, I didn't have time to take any more consulting gigs. And so I hired help because I didn't want to leave my full-time job yet. And I taught she's like I just want to call her my girl Sierra. She was my first hire, and I had worked with her at Ghost, and she had left Ghost already too. So it was cool to. I knew she was a good worker. She worked for me on my team, and she basically like ran the agency for like a year and a half before I was able to, or before I went full time. And I just kind of like mentored my agency and did work when I could. And now I'm full time agency, and it's been really, really fun. But yeah, it just all kind of happened by like giving more than you take, and just being just like helping people. And people, if they really, really appreciate the help, and they'll tell other people that you're helpful. And that's kind of just like where the agency, how it started.
So it's like a lucky accident almost, right? There's no plan behind this.
Yeah, I never thought that I could ever have an agency. I never like aspired to. I don't know. Yeah, it never crossed my mind that I could be doing something like this, but yeah, it's definitely a happy accident, and I'm really grateful for it, because I truly like love my work, and every day it still feels like I'm just like, getting on calls and helping, and like just for fun, and that gets to be my day to day. So that's amazing.
How did you transition out of kind of consulting call to like done for you agency, and what kind of services were you offering and why?
Honestly, it was another thing that I kept saying no to, because I'm like, I don't have time. I have a full-time job. But I would get on consulting calls, and people would be like, yes, I need all of this, like, but I don't have time to do it. Can you do it for me? And I'm like, no, I'm selling meat sticks. Like, I don't have time to do yours too. But so that's where it transitioned into, I really could only fit in the consulting time, like getting on calls. Like there was, I think, probably like 3.5 years where I was doing calls. I was on like the West Coast, so New York and them were all awake, and so I was doing calls in my time at like 6 a.m., and then I would do calls after work too. So sometimes my days would be like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. of just like calls, and like, yeah, just grind it. I don't know. And then I started, I was on Mentor Pass, or I am on Mentor Pass, which is like a site where you can give mentor sessions, like consulting. And I had my schedule just kind of like open outside of my work hours. And so then I started getting calls from like overseas, and I would have like calls at 9 p.m. with people in Australia or in the UK. And that was really cool, because I could, learn so much and help others in different parts of the world. But yeah, it really ended up being people saying like, well, this is great, but can you just do it for us? And that's where Sierra really came in, because I was able to do the calls and like make sure everything, and like project manage and teach Sierra how to do all of the things. And I trusted her to do them. She's just like a little mini me, and even better. And so, yeah, I would be working my full-time job, and she'd be helping the clients during the day. And then I'd still help with some like implementation nights and weekends and stuff. But yeah, it really ended up just being people like, yeah,
Yeah.
they needed more than the consulting.
And what, like, were you doing completely custom things for everyone, or was it kind of similar stuff, similar services?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Each business is same, like similar but different. It really ends up being like starting with what's going on and like what your customers are saying. And I always start in the inbox. And a lot of times people don't even have like and not to say it, like more to just shed light on managing an inbox. Keeping an inbox to zero is really hard. Even just like my own email, your own email, like just keeping up with email in a organized fashion is really challenging. And people weren't utilizing all of their tools in their help desk, or they never are, because it really takes a full-time person who knows what they're doing to like keep up with all of the tools and keep everything organized. You're getting hundreds, thousands of emails from all these different customers. And so it really started by people would have, or a lot of times they just have like kind of like a mess in their inbox, and they don't know what's going on in it and it's so overwhelming. And then they realize, like, I have like a week, I'm behind a week in responses, and I promise my customers that I have 24-hour response time. And that, like, it really just started like, hey, let me just like clean up your inbox so that you know what's on in it, and like let me teach you how to gather insights. And so it really started with just kind of like helping people optimize their help desks, or use one in at all. Like, it's so interesting that there's like all of this talk about, tools being expensive, etc. And I like investing in a good customer experience tool, or the help desk is really vital, because you can gather, so like that's like the heart of your company, is getting all of those like insights, and like making sure that things don't go, like you could have really big issues, or just like gold in the inbox of people telling you, they're literally telling you what they want, and what you need to make your business successful.
Can we expand on that? So it's not just like you're there to kind of get the job done, respond to kind of issues. You're actually kind of using that as feedback to improve the business, right? Which I think is,
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I think is like different about kind of the work we do. And I actually I really like problem solving, and I think that's kind of like what makes me different from like an other customer experience people sometimes, because a lot of people are just reactive, or they're kind of like scared, or they look at themselves as just customer support, and they don't realize that like other people don't know about these issues. They kind of look at it and they're like, oh well, I'm sure someone's handling it, or like the feedback loops are just not there. And you go and you talk to these support teams, and I'm like, so did anyone tell anyone about this like broken link in the email? And like that gets complaints every single day. And it's like, oh no, but like I don't even know who to talk to about that, or like I just thought that's how it was. And I
yeah.
help the customer with whatever. And so every single kind of like constraint or challenge for the customer is a detriment to your business. And it could be like as big as, the warehouse is shipping the wrong item every single time, but no one tells anyone about it. And then you're like sending replacements, and there's like all of these broken things that nobody knows about if it just is in a messy inbox.
How are you
So yeah,
positioning
yeah.
this like value to potential clients of like this? The service is like so much above and beyond just like responding to tickets, right? How do you position that?
It's interesting because I never feel like I have to kind of like sell the agency, because every time we get like I've only done inbound, like all like word of mouth, or people see content that I post. I post content on CX, and really just to help or like shed light. I like comedic content too. And it's really just like when like pitching, or is just like when that going back to that like venting like therapeutic session is they're bringing me the issues that they're frustrated with, and it's really just like, yeah, we can fix that, like don't worry.
It's
And that's
very
like
like matter of
usually
fact.
enough. What is it?
They're kind of coming with that issue of like maybe they've worked with someone before, and your response is very matter of fact, is like this is what we do, and that's why they're
Yeah,
different.
yeah. And I'm not sure if matter of fact is like the best way, because a lot of times we get on calls and people are like, so what do you do? And I'm like, it's really hard to say because we touch every single part of the business. We just like fix your shit. Like we fix everything.
Okay. And can we, so we talked about kind of like what the service was initially, I guess. How was what you do, how has it evolved kind of over time?
Yeah, so started doing like the implementation where it was really starting with just optimizing the help desk, and then I really believe that like the feedback loops and customer experience really needs a seat at the table, and they need to be meeting with like operations teams, they need to be meeting with the marketing teams and giving them these analytics and telling the founders what's going on with their customers. Oh, then it evolved into mentoring other sides of the company, because like operations is a really big one for us, because there's always like the warehouse and 3PLs and all of that just messing up orders. It's so interesting because customers and even like the marketing side of the business, like they always are just like, it's not as simple as like a customer orders a product and then it shows up at their door. Like there's so many steps that could go wrong or could be way more efficient and save you money from like the minute the customer places the order to when it shows up at their door and beyond. So a lot of it is what we do now has evolved into working with the operations teams, the marketing teams, sometimes even finance, and cross-functionally giving them all of the information that they need. And then a lot of times what I've found, which is also very interesting, is that they don't really know how to fix the problems because they're doing their job, and they have their own KPIs, and their KPIs are like get the box out of the door as quick as possible, but they don't realize like the tracking information was messed up for hundreds of customers because they like pressed the wrong button, or there's a system, all the tech is all integrated wrong. And so a lot of it is us going in and working with those teams and teaching them how to set it up properly. Things as simple as like having a space bit after a SKU can like completely ruin a whole launch of a product. And so we do a lot of like creating checklists and learning from mistakes of launching products that went wrong. And we work with, so yeah, like the operation side, but then also the marketing side of, the customers are complaining that they can't edit their subscriptions, and they've been like, and going into the tech and like fixing that for them because they're worried about growth, not retention all the time. And so now it's just evolved into like full, sometimes I'm even like, I don't even know if it's a CX agency anymore. Is this like business like consulting just in general? But I'm going to keep it as like CX because it does all come from the customers. But we really are just like full scope helping the entire business function now.
So as an agency owner, this feels like the opposite of, what all the gurus teach you, which is have a productized service, which is kind of like one size fits all. It feels like what you do is very customized. How do you scale
Yeah.
that? And I think second question is like, do you have a systemic process for like we start with X and then we do Y and then 2 months later we're interacting with this team, or is it chaos for want of a better word?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I don't know how to scale it. Like I'm just figuring it out. I don't know what's going on. I always feel like we're a little bit behind because everyone needs so much help, and we can like, and also it's hard to do only one thing because there's so many like problems or like so many things that need to be fixed, and no one else is doing it. And so it's like, well, who else is going to? And like the whole experience touches so many things. And so what we do, and I think we're getting better at it every single day, but each business has different, like you have to really understand what's important, and it really truly is customized, because one, you have to understand what's important to their business and like how that customer experience, like some people don't care if like things aren't perfect, and then some people care extremely, like it's really interesting. It's like you have to learn like what the founders really want and their end goal of the business. Like, is this a long-term business, or is this one that like they launched and they're trying to sell right away? And like, you really have to know what's important to the founder and work with that. And also, a lot of times they don't know what the most important things are. So we evaluate where the biggest opportunities of either like they're losing a lot of money or they're missing out on a lot of money, or like missing out on repeat purchases from customers because X, Y, and Z. And so we help the companies evaluate that. But stage one is always fix the inbox. Like, if you don't have a 24-hour response time, you really can't move on to anything else, because your like customers want to be helped. And so like that's number one. And then once that's all, like customer support is all fixed up, then it's like, okay, now that we've been hanging out with the customers, they're mad about this and that, or they want this, that, and that, and these are the biggest opportunities. And then we shape the next couple months. We used to do, or we still do, this like 3-month like roadmap, but it's crazy because it never sticks to that. Like, it's like we can lay it out, but shit pops up, and it's like then we're putting out fires, and like something, there's always, it's inevitable. That's why I named it inevitable. We fix what we can, but you prepare for the inevitable, because like you can do things, and you think you set everything up perfectly, and then like the warehouse burns down. Like, then what do you do? And so you have to, like, our team is able to kind of like be that partner that is very flexible and can like shift and help you in the place that's most important, and then we can get back to the less urgent things. But a lot of times it's like something goes wrong and they need help with the entire experience, so it's like, okay, pause that, shift to this.
The idea is kind of fix the inbox, have a therapy session, plan this like roadmap, firefight as stuff
Mm-hmm.
happens, and then try and kind of go back to the roadmap. Is that the
Yep, yep. And then the roadmap ends up
so?
changing because the business changes. Yeah.
So this is what I was going to ask next. Is in terms of that roadmap, is it kind of common pit stops on that roadmap for a lot of different brands, and do you have playbooks for those different kind of areas that are common?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the biggest things is deflecting and like making it really easy for your customers to find the answers on their own. And even like a lot of the AI stuff as well, of the customers, like explaining to brands that like the customers don't want to reach out to you. So like they want what they purchased and they want all the information they need with that, and they don't want to talk to you necessarily. You'd rather have like them reaching out to you about like praising the brand than having problems. And so one of the biggest things that is just like very underrated is having literally moving like an FAQ page to a help center, which is like the same thing. Like, a help center is like a glorified FAQ page where you just give the customers all the answers that they need, and in a fashion that's easy to find. So like having a search bar, and then also being able to like know what your customers are searching on your site, and always improving that, or even just like looking at like the thumbs up and the thumbs down, and the how the are these articles helping people. And a lot of times that can like it deflects. So I really like using ones that have analytics that you can see, because you can see how many customers would have reached out to you. And you literally like take the inbox, and anything that's repeat questions in the inbox, you put it in this FAQ center, or this help center, and you can see live like how many people are searching, and like how many people are sitting on the site just like having questions. And I use it to help marketing, because I'm like, oh, look, like all of these people they're hesitant to buy because they're asking these questions, and like we can make that more clear on the landing page or the ads, and we can make content out of it even. So it's really like being able to gather your customer insights, because people don't realize what the thought process and like the psychology behind like shopping. It's not like like when you shop, you don't just go on a website and press buy now. Like, a lot of customers want to think through their process, and they're clicking around on the site, they're reading your story, they want to feel a part of the brand and feel like community and not be confused. So really, like, that's kind of one of our biggest projects, is just like deflection. um and anything that's a repeat issue, we just fix it because we want to mitigate all of the issues.
So I assume that all CX work was kind of post-purchase, but what you're saying is there's a lot of kind of stuff that you can do for the pre-purchase journey as well. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. And one of my favorite things to utilize AI for is actually pre-purchase, because typically when you think about support, you think post-purchase, and that's what you prioritize, right? Because that's like the most urgent. But there are so many emails in the inbox that say like have questions about, they're on the site right now and they're thinking about ordering, but they're not sure because they have this question.
So you're feeding that back to CRO and kind of improving conversion rates as well as the post-purchase experience.
That and like utilizing a chat bot that pops up on a site and that someone's been sitting there for 5 seconds. Like that's a long time to be sitting on a site. So having a chat bot pop up and say, hey, can I answer any questions for you? And answering their questions and like creating that, showing your customers that you're there for them and that you care about them and you want them to purchase, and helping with conversion in that way. And then also like the AI, when someone emails you, just typically those questions would get pushed to the bottom of the inbox because they're not as urgent. But if you answer those questions right away, the customers will purchase right then. Otherwise, they're going to go to another brand that is able to that has that answer on the landing page or in their FAQ center. So it's the AI bot is able to a lot of times like answer those questions immediately, where your humans are like solving the issues. So it's like way more than just like post-purchase and like reactive answering tickets and stuff.
Double tapping on the AI buzzword, can I just ask how you're using that in the business? And like, I'm assuming a lot of your stuff, like you said, is in the inbox. Is that possible
Yeah.
to get like an AI agent to kind of take that over anytime soon?
Yeah. Yeah. We're doing it. It's really cool. I was against it at first. It's scary, right? Like having a robot talk to your customers, but really there's just so many things that the robot can do better and quicker and like sound just like and even just like collection of information, because a lot of times the customers reach out and you need to ask them questions, like clarifying questions of like, okay, someone says like, I didn't like this product, I want a refund. But then you need to know like, why didn't you like this product? And like, can you send me a picture of the lot code? And asking all these clarifying questions, like the AI bot is able to read that first email, respond and say like, thanks for reaching out, can I have all this information immediately? And then your humans, they can pass it off to a human to do the rest if it can't. So it just creates so many efficiencies. And so the customer support like agent answering is one thing, but also we use AI to analyze data of like pulling in all of our customer satisfaction or our reviews, or even just like support tickets, exporting them and uploading them to a GPT and being like, what's going on in the inbox? Is there anything I should be concerned about? And like doing all of that manually or trying to find like trends in the inbox is very time consuming. And a lot of times you can be behind. You'll figure out something's wrong 3 weeks later. And if you just utilize AI to catch different like trends or red flags that are going on, you can get ahead of things before it's like you lose too much money or piss off too many people.
Would you say this is kind of transformative for your business?
Yes and no. I think that it's transformative in the way that we're keeping up with it so that we don't get left behind. I think that it could be detrimental if we don't. And so I think that like keeping like utilizing it does, I don't know if it would transform our business, but it does just like give us more tools. So
So it makes you guys
it
more
doesn't
kind of
feel,
productive or efficient, but it's not like changing what
yeah,
you do day to day. It's still the same kind of output,
yeah.
but just better.
Well, if you think about it, like I had one client who, their Black Friday sale, like they had their subscription brand and their Black Friday sale happened. And when all of the subscriptions came through, like there was so many questions or edits and everything that like, or even just like pausing cancellations, that like aftermath of having the influx of Black Friday and then like all of the renewals happening at the same time, same day, it's really hard to train like quadruple humans to help with that, right? And they woke up one day and they're like, oh my gosh, we have over 10,000 emails and like there's no way we can get back to them. And so I was like, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. Again, like let it all out and then we'll fix it. And so I just like spent a couple hours training an AI bot to help us with the inbox. And the AI bot was able to actually be like equivalent to 7 humans. And I was able to train it in just a couple hours. And if you think about like the time it would take to hire,
Train on
train,
board.
all of that stuff, but like the AI agent, yeah, it makes mistakes. Like you have to treat it like a human, you have to babysit it. I assigned someone to literally like manage it because it's always also changing. But as long as it can do it once, it can do it at scale. And it could be a little pricey, but then like you can turn it off when you don't need it, and then turn it right back on if you get behind.
For sure. Can I get your top 5 kind of CX tools or things that you recommend kind of businesses use?
Yeah. Gorgias is my favorite like help desk. There's like it's so funny. I've been like getting kind of like upset with the like Twitter world because people keep talking about how like pricey it is. And I'm like, oh, but you guys don't like, and it's these are people who are like aren't in
So
customer
what do you
experience.
say to those people? Because I have seen they've been going through the ringer a bit right recently.
Honestly, I've been trying to like figure out what to say. And recently I've just been saying like you get what you pay for, because when these founders like come to me and they've switched to like a cheaper tool and then they tell me what they want, I'm like, this tool doesn't do it. Like it might try to do it, but it's all broken. Like I've used so many help desks, and a lot of times well, first of all, like a lot of companies don't know how to set these things up, or they don't have time, whatever. And so it's not their fault that like they want a cheap tool, and the salespeople are saying like, yeah, this tool provides that. But then I go and I try to set it up from like what they say they're doing, and I'm finding bugs, and I'm saying like, I'm messaging the founder like, hey, like there's this, like I'm trying to set up this data collection thing that like whatever, and it's not triggering and it's broken. And they're like, oh, you found another bug. And it's like I don't have time. I'm trying to like help these companies get out of their mess, and they're just very like cheaply built. And I would say like if you want anything that's outside of just like treat like to me, if you want to have like a cheap tool, you might as well just stay in Gmail, you know like, because that's what people are using these help desks like. That's like it's like just like a Gmail inbox, but there's so many things you could do with like data collection. And Gorgias, for example, like people don't realize like that help center thing that I was talking about is like free. Your contact page, it's free, not free, but like you get all of that, and you don't need dev help. You just like you set it up. It's really like as long as you know how to use it, like it's easy to set up, and you send the code to embed it and it's done. Like you don't have to hire dev help to like do all these things, and your support team can keep up with the management of like the upkeep of it without having to like ask your website team to put a new FAQ every time something pops up. So it's really like you get what you pay for. uh yeah, it's like that's my number one, and their AI is really good too. I would say it's very comparable to I think it's better. I've used a bunch of AI tools for the agents, and um it's competitive pricing, but it's worth it. And then I also really like I think that 2025 is going to be a year of the phones. There's a tool called Kazio, which it's an AI outbound phone sales platform where you can upload different segments of from Klaviyo or from Shopify of your customers and just call them and talk to them. Even if you have like the consent, you can even call like non if I think it's yeah, like if you have their phone number but they haven't converted yet and you have their consent, you can even call non-customers. And
So is
you
that
know
kind of like sales and conversion focused, or is that for feedback?
Both.
Wow.
I love using it for both. Yeah. There's like I don't know if you've heard of all of the like different phone sales like
Yeah,
agencies
yeah.
where they supply agents to just do like outbound sales even for ecom, especially like higher AOV products. And I had one client who had a really bad situation that their phone sales team was getting like the list of abandoned cart customers and stuff, and then but like they didn't have access to Shopify or like the customer's information in general, and they would be calling customers and offering them a discount, but they had just purchased, like they're working through the list and they had already purchased. And so then customers would come back and cancel their original order and then be like, and this person gave me a better discount, but then it's already shipped. And like it was a mess, because their lists were just PDFs or Excel files of customers, and they're just calling one by one and going down the list, but they don't have insights on like if that customer converted since they got the list. And so Kazio is able to like do that, so the experience is so much better and you can see what's going on with the customer before talking to them rather than just calling a random person. um,
Yeah.
and I really think that like people are going to start talking to their customers
And do you
this
know
year.
if that's like a seamless conversation? Because I've seen some of these kind of AI SDRs that some of these SaaS companies have, and it's kind of robotic, right? Is it like that, or is it
Well, so there's a couple different things you can use it for. You don't have the robots aren't talking to your customers. There's put like
live agents?
either like, yeah, sales agents, but they do have options. So like the AI part is actually like you put all the information, like you literally put your PDP in there and then like your goals for the campaign and like any information, and then it pops up different like cue cards and scripts, and then it also gives you possible rebuttals and like what to say if whatever. So that's like the
So it's like
AI
an
part, and you
assistant
could build
on the
out
call with you.
exactly. Yep. And then they also have like the voicemail drop thing. So like a ringless voicemail. So you could just record a voicemail and just like send that to the customer's inbox and receive a call back or whatever. But yeah, the AI bot's not talking like
Yeah, got
being
it.
the
Yeah, yeah.
salesperson.
Do you have maybe one more tool, and then we'll move on?
Flip.
Yeah,
Flip AI for it's another phone. That one is a robot talking to your customers. That one's amazing as well. Helps you answer the phones, gets rid of questions that you don't need to be talking to. Yeah, so I love that
that's
tool
very
too.
cool. My kind of final question before we start to wrap up is: what's one thing founders can do today that's probably often missing that improves their kind of CX?
Give the customer support team a seat at the table, because they really like and listen to them, because they might. I think a lot of times founders are like the customer support people are always bringing them issues, right? So it's like they're a lot of times they're like, "Ugh, I don't want to hear about it. But like people need to reframe their mindset about like support. And yeah, it might be issues, but the customer support people aren't making the issues. There's other things, like a lot of times, like sometimes the founders, like it's actually the way they've set things up. And it's sad because like the support is like bringing light to the mistakes and nobody wants to be dealing with them. But the customer support people, they talk to your customers all day and they care about them so much. So give them a
It's really
seat.
about kind of getting that feedback from those guys, where they're getting the most valuable
Yeah, and
insight, right,
listening.
and just feeding that back into the
Hmm.
business.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Before we go, I know you're building out like 100-person kind of BPO side of the business, right? Can you just talk
Yeah.
briefly about that?
Yeah. I got really frustrated with hearing just bad feedback and horror stories about offshore help. And again, it was something that I was really against at first because I hadn't seen it done well. And then at scale, like when companies need like more than 10 people, it gets so expensive, and it is really hard to scale onshore. And like the salary, like this is like a really hard job too, so it's hard because you want to give people a fair salary and make them feel like they're a part of the company and everything. And so last year I was challenged with being able to, like, I had a couple clients who like they could only afford offshore. And so I hired like, I think I've tried like 5 or 6 different BPOs, and just uh a lot of times they were just like handing me people who didn't have any experience, and then they just like, that's it, and then it was up to me to train them and all those things, which I kind of prefer anyways, because I'm like, I know what I'm doing, and I want to train them like my way anyways. But there was just continuous issues with the other BPOs, and I got fed up, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just like see if I can hire a couple people like directly and train them and like take them from day one of like, put them in my shoe, or like exactly how I learned, and I've had the most amazing employees. I paid them a little bit more than like their typical, and so I think I got a little bit like better talent. And yeah, and then all of a sudden I woke up one day and I'm like, oh wow, like what was 100 offshore employees now, and it's like I haven't even necessarily like I don't even think it's on my website yet that I provide that, because we just provide it for our clients who need it, or people who will like reach out and ask, and I'm like, yeah, I guess we can do it for you too. So, yeah, now it's I think this year it's going to be a really big key part of our business, and maybe I'll put it on the website and I'll advertise it. But it's another one of those things that's hard to keep up with, and I just am making sure that I take care of our current clients and everything. But yeah, we figured out how to do it.
Okay, and what kind of roles are those guys doing for the customers?
So it started off just customer support, and then now it's branched off to handling some like operations things. So there's like fulfillment type issues, or keeping up with like proactive operations where you're making sure things are getting fulfilled, and address updates, and like all of those like kind of almost even some marketing things like review management, chargebacks, disputes, anything that's like like a systemized process, they can do. Yeah, so but most of it is customer support, answering tickets, and like helping with implementation
And
and
final
stuff.
question on that is, are you kind of building out those processes yourself? Or is this something that the
Yeah.
company kind of hands to you and you just kind of train the team on?
um, Most of the time people will give me their process, but then I will tear it apart and redo it.
Very CX, very on brand, right? Well, look, Zoe,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you. What kind of businesses do you guys work with, and where can people kind of find you?
Yeah, mostly e-commerce. So anything, if you have a Shopify store, mostly Shopify. We do other enterprise level, Salesforce and stuff too, but Shopify is kind of our niche. So any Shopify brand, but also retail as well, if you have a Shopify store. And then people can find us inevitableagency.co. That's our website. And then you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, Zoe Kahn, Zoekahn, and I'm active on all of that.
Okay. And is there certain kind of sectors or revenue thresholds for brands?
Honestly, maybe I should do that, but no.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Okay. Zoe, thanks again for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Scaling an ecom brand is hard. That's why we're on a mission to share as much info as we can to help make it easy. From weekly interviews with the biggest names in the space, to case studies, brand breakdowns, and tips and tricks, and much, much more. Subscribe so you don't miss out.